Welcome back from that short time out. And this is still Cosmopolitan Market on the Nigeria Customs Broadcasting Network. And at the beginning of the program, I did say that a lot has happened, especially in the economic space in Nigeria. Yesterday, we heard quite a lot from the CBN governor. He also announced the plan to discontinue forex disbursements to BDC operators in Nigeria. And we also heard a lot coming from the CBN governor and other things, where we also saw the MPC committee vote to keep all key parameters unchanged. And how much effect would this have on the economy in Nigeria, and what do we expect in the days to come? I have my guest right here with me. He is Princewill Eziukwu, and he is a development economist. Thank you, Mr. Princewill, for coming on the program.
Good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Thank you once again for joining us on the program. Before we move on to issues around Forex, which is, of course, the big elephant in the room, let us start with the MPC's decision of yesterday. First of all, did you expect that from the committee? And did your expectations meet the outcome? Of course, we saw the MPC agree or decide to leave all parameters unchanged. Was that your expectation?
Yes. I think I was impressed when they left all the parameters unchanged. The reason is not far-fetched. We are experiencing some improvements. The inflation rate we have at least reached the peak, so it has started diminishing. The GDP growth, the GDP have started turning out positive figures. So I think it might be a bit destabilizing for the CBN to just change at this point in time. So I think I was very impressed when they left everything. So let's see, let's move with the flow while they continue to do those development finance activities, that have been helping. I think it's a good one. At least to some level, bring some level of stability in the market. And then I think it's a wonderful action.
Okay, I came across a discussion today on radio where some economists were speaking to whether or not it is appropriate at this time, because some others had said they had expected a tinkering of some of the rates. Do you agree with it being appropriate at this time?
Yes, like I said before, I completely agree and side with the CBN for leaving it unchanged. One, we had last year, even the CBN governor himself said it, we saw the foreign exchange and foreign development funds that left the economy as a result, the emerging economy as a result of COVID, because there was a high level of sentiment. People were concerned that what is going to be the aftermath of COVID, and how long is the economy going to take to rebound. So investors were moving their money out of emerging economy, not only Nigeria, South Africa, Brazil. We saw that. So now the investors are a bit coming in. The confidence level in the market is increasing. So it will also be counterproductive for the government, CBN here, to twinkle the policies. So investors are aligning their strategic decision with the decision of the CBN. So to me, it was rather too early to look at or to change some of the parameters.
Okay, and we have the next MPC meeting in the month of September, I believe.
Yes.
What do you expect to happen, especially with the CBN's decision of yesterday to leave all parameters unchanged? What developments do you expect to happen between now and the next MPC meeting? So
very soon we'll be having the second quarter GDP growth figures. We'll also be having the July, August inflation figures. So if the inflation keep falling, right, consistently like it's doing now, the GDP is growing. Now we'll look at what is happening in the money market. If the stock market is improving, so I will now expect the CBN to look at the headwinds that drove or that have been driving the issue from January to date. So you don't say by September I will change figures. No, you will look at it by September, depending on what must have happened, then the inflation figure, being experience or that will be experienced in July and August. So those will now form the decision to whether reduce, to pull in more money into the economy, or no, we need to take out more money from the economy through the monetary policy decisions. So for me, we cannot really stay here and predict or project that by September CBN should return. No, some of the dynamics, some of the headwinds must have changed. So till then.
Okay, so as we keep watching the economic space ahead of or before the next MPC meeting, yesterday a major thing that happened was, of course, the ban of Forex to BDC operators yesterday. And this BDC or Forex issue has been a major denominator in Nigeria, especially, it's almost in comparison with insecurity that we have been facing in a while now. And we saw the CBN governor visibly angry at BDC operators, where he accused them of quite a number of things, including the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. Okay, I'd like to first of all get your initial reaction as to, or how did you react to this news when you heard it?
Wow. That was my reaction. Seriously, that was my reaction. And I needed to show my, my joy.
Oh, joy?
Yes.
Okay.
My joy to that policy. Now, the question is, what? What is this guy saying? First and foremost, we have the official rates. We have the black market rates, we have the investors and exports window, we have a whole lot
of rates
for the same currency. So somebody like me, I have been an advocate of, we have to somehow converge somewhere as far as this currency is at stake. We need to converge where you get from the official rate something around 400. You go to the black market, you get around 500 for the same currency. So I wasn't really happy. I've said it in various presentations that CBN have to look at how to ensure that the currency exchange converges. I don't care about the rate they want to use. Now, this is how it works. If you go to the bank and maybe you have connection, and you're able to get directly from the CBN, you are getting at official rates. And if investor A has that connection and investor B does not have that connection, what happens? The investor B goes to the Bureau de Change, where he will be forced to get that 505. Already, the cost of capital is already against investor B, right? So a situation where all of us now go to the same market. And if you look at the inflation figures released by National Bureau of Statistics, you will see that all the items that are pushing inflation figure are actually items that are attributable to the foreign exchange exposure. So you have pharmaceutical, you have garments, you have, just name them. So what it means is that if we're able to get our foreign exchange denomination right, we must have solved at least 50% of some of those headwinds, driving our inflation. So for me, but my concern is the political will. Does CBN really have the political will to pull out this? But if they do, I think it's a very fantastic idea. Of course, every policy will have the demerits and its merits. There is the demerit. Now we have these BDCs. Some of them, according to the CBN governor, we have close to 3,500 to 5,000. So say each person employs one person, maybe a secretary. Now we are talking about additional 5,000 jobs, right? So if CBN no longer give them Forex, so some of them might start shutting down, right? So we are looking at between 5,000, on people to be put into the unemployment market. So that is one demerit. But whether it will assist or it will help our XMEs and all the rest of them to have access to cheaper Forex, I think it's a good and a fantastic idea. I'm not even looking at the illicit financial flow that the CBN governor talked about. Of course, the monitoring and the regulation around the BDCs have been very poor. So how sure are we?
So in essence, you're saying the pros outweigh the cons?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to me, I support the policy. At least for now, until the CBN, gives us the complete package how the policy will go. But one thing I know is that I had to look at BOFIA, Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act 2002. I had to look at it and consider why was the BDCs established? Because when you don't know the purpose of a thing, abuse becomes inevitable. I had to look at it. The idea is fantastic. If I can't go to the bank, if I'm to do a transaction less than 5,000 or thereabout, I can easily walk into a BDC, and receive money to do my transaction. Very good idea. So I even looked at when they were first established in 1989. So what were they doing? So how did we now come to where the central bank will give? I had to ask somebody in the process in the industry, how much does CBN give you people? Sell dollar to you. He said 393 naira per $1. How much is BDC selling to you and I? As at yesterday, it was 505. So we're talking about 112 naira per dollar. So to me, I think when the policy, is rolled out, I expect the CBN to have a benchmark. Imagine that if we give you at 393, for instance, you shouldn't sell anything more than 395 or 96, maybe 2 naira per dollar, and those were some of the things that BOFIA actually provided for. But the question is, the BDCs, were they doing it? So those are the considerations.
Yeah, Mr. Eziukwu, there are concerns, like you have stated, that everything that has advantages also has disadvantages.
Definitely.
I was speaking with someone this morning, and one thing he said repeatedly was, can commercial banks meet the needs of all Nigerians? Again, considering the fact that how overly bureaucratic and complex it can be when it comes to getting Forex from commercial banks. I was speaking with someone, like I said before, and he made mention of how he had gone to get money from a commercial bank at some point, and he was asked for, I think it was for travel, and he was asked for his return ticket when he had not even planned when he was going to be returning, and all of those complexities. So what should Nigerians expect, especially as now BDCs are out of the way and we should access Forex from commercial banks?
Okay, so the details right now is something nobody, have complete picture of. But one thing I expect is that the CBN said we should call the toll-free number, when you're unable to. There should be some sanctions, meted out to, because the essence why some of us go to BDC to, buy dollar and other foreign currency is the ease. Like the earlier person said. But for me, really, I think if we can also go to the bank to do other domestic transactions, then we can also go to the bank to do our FX transaction. But the thing is, the ball now lies with the CBN to ensure that the framework is well understood by the banks, is well adhered to. So, and then the CBN should not just stop at that. There should be continuous monitoring. You monitor it, you fine-tune it. Where there is issue, you look at it, you look at the bottleneck, then address it. But one thing I know is it will help to converge the Forex value. That one, even when I'm sleeping, I know of that one. Because now, all of us goes to the same market. And the sellers actually buy from the same source. So, and if you don't sell, if you involve in what that is abnormal to the directive from the CBN, definitely there should be sanction. And I think CBN has very strong regulatory overview over the banks and the BDCs. So let's see how the framework. Let's see the white paper on it, and then we'll take it off from there. But whether, I think with time, seriously, I strongly believe with time, it will be eased off, and then Nigerians can start using it.
Okay, aside from convergence of rates, what else would you say the CBN is trying to achieve, especially in the short to medium term? So
for me, earlier this year, when dollar to to be specific, hit 500 naira to a dollar. I was concerned that with what is happening in the oil market, the crude oil price, keep increasing, then the NNPC and the DPR is telling us that they are spending so much money. Of course, they don't want to call it a subsidy, right? So the question was, we have found ourselves in a situation where we make so much money and we spend so much money. So we are not really getting the value. So that we continue to impart on the foreign exchange. CBN gets money and a whole lot of it, goes to BDC. And then the rent-seeking attitude of some of us. A whole lot of people, went into buying dollar to save. We started saving majority of our investment, our savings in dollar, because we feel that, Naira will do this and that. So to me, I think, had it been CBN allowed that to, continue, by December, maybe dollar should be around 550 and thereabout. So this, at least it will checkmate that rent-seeking attitude. That's one thing I know. Because at this point in time, I don't think it will be wise for any reasonable investor to go to BDC now to buy dollar at 505 naira. Because tomorrow the banks will start selling the same dollar to you, say at 400 naira. So you're automatically losing 105 naira immediately. So I don't think it's a wise decision. So it's going to remove speculative demand on the naira. It's going to remove that. So at least removing that is removing a whole lot of weight, on the local currency. So I think that one, I'm sure. But this will also be subject to the banks releasing the currency, releasing the FX when the demand is. Because if not, then people will have to revert back to BDCs. And at that time, BDCs was because they find it difficult to get. So the supply right now is reduced, if not eliminated. So automatically, so if the demand is still constant, then lack of supply will actually push the price, to maybe 600 or thereabout. So if there is a bottleneck in getting it from the bank, then I fear that the price might skyrocket.
Okay, looking down memory lane, I remember sometime in, I believe, 2016, one of the events that led to the establishment of the I&E window was because 2017 was because of the ban on supply of forex to BDCs.
Yeah.
We had seen that happen, and that did not, in the long run, create a convergence in rates, because we had seen an increase even in the exchange rate between the naira and dollar at the banks even, because I remember at the time, I believe it was selling at 277 naira or something, and shortly after, I believe a month after, it was at 377 naira. Should we expect such to play out this time again?
So I don't, but that is subject to, people having ease of access of the fund from the banks. Now, see how this works. Just imagine a pipe, right? So just imagine a pipe supplying water to maybe to Kubwa from here. Now, along the line, something closed that pipe. And the source from which, water is pumped into that pipe is still running. So somehow, the pipe will have to look for a way to discharge. Now, that is what happens. So I use this scenario. If there is demand, of course, there will definitely be demand, because we are import dependent. There will definitely be a whole lot of our big men, their children are studying abroad. So there will definitely be demand for dollar. A whole lot of us, we travel out for medical treatable diseases that we can even treat here in Nigeria. So there will definitely be, pressure to buy dollar. And the person goes to the bank and was unable to get the dollar. Automatically, the person will revert back to the black market. And at this point in time, the black market will tell you that we don't have. So automatically, it will create that artificial scarcity. Because where you're supposed to get it, you're not getting it from there. So the price will automatically increase. You don't need to study economics to know. But where people can easily walk into a bank and get the dollar, I don't see And remember, the price you're going to get at the dollar at the bank will be better or more comfortable than the price, or more affordable than the price you will get at the black market. So definitely, personally, I will go to the bank. So there won't be that push in price. So what will push the price? Because there is supply, there is demand. Demand makes supply. So definitely they will converge. But a situation where supply, anything that affects supply and demand remain constant or increases, definitely will push the price upwards. It's just a simple economics.
One thing the Central Bank of Nigeria governor stated yesterday was that weekly it disburses as much as $110 million to BDCs, and that henceforth it would channel that amount to banks. Is that enough? Is that enough? I'll start with that.
Is that enough?
Because previously we had banks, we had BDCs, and we had options.
Yeah, so what if I did get the CBN governor correctly, is that in addition to what has been happening before, so this one we've been giving to BDCs, we'll also channel it back to this the banks. So not really that the first one, the IE window will be shut down and then they will be using, no, that's not what I understood anyway. So unless the CBN will have to give us further
better clarification. Okay, you spoke about having enough supply to meet the demands of Nigerians.
Yeah.
I am wondering, you're someone who has watched the economic space for a long time now. What measures should be put in place to meet these demands? Because like you stated rightly, in the past, we have seen, we got to a point where the supply was not enough to meet demands of Nigerians. So what should be done differently this time?
Okay, so economy does not work in isolation. So you have the major spender of our FX, which is, the money used in importing fuel. So solve the fuel imports. You must have saved a whole lot of foreign exchange, right? Now plow back that foreign exchange into some other, the normal things that we do not have the comparative advantage, to produce. So what will happen is that with reduced demand for dollar, definitely will lead to increased supply. So even if everything remains constant, when there is the demand have already, been reduced, automatically it's no longer at equilibrium. So supply have now increased. So for me, at this point in time, a whole lot of the pressure, a whole lot of the so-called demand for dollar, for our people are certain transactions that you can even do locally. In the local currency, with the local currency. So they are being, to show that you have dollar, some to save. That's speculative. So what CBN is doing, if I did get the policy directive correctly, is that it's removing that speculative angle. And I tell you that speculative angle is very, very huge because every economy works based on sentiment. It's just sentiment. If the market says today that, with this CBN policy, the dollar is going to fall, I tell you automatically people who have stored dollar, will start selling. And it will mount a whole lot of pressure in the economy. So the price of dollar will definitely fall. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that at this point in time, one thing that this policy, I'm sure, will do is that it's going to remove the speculative nature. It's going to remove that that speculative motive on Forex. It's going to do that. So by doing that alone, it will help the local currency. So that's one thing I know. But whether in the long run, like I said earlier, it's going to be subject to how the banks were able to manage that, how easy it is for people to walk into the bank and get access to foreign exchange to do their transactions, legitimate transactions.
Yeah, even though you made mention of this earlier, joblessness now on the side of BDC operators, is that worrisome?
Definitely. Anything that will make us lose one job should be worrisome. Because at this point in time, we are doing over 3.3%. So unemployment rate, which is very high. So when you factor in the underemployment, that means we are doing over close to 50%. And of course, it means that we are not firing with, with all our cylinders. We have people that are not productive in the economy. And if you have over 33.3% of your population, active population, ready to work without job, I think it should be worrisome. So, but then we now have to look at the greater goods. So if we're able to address, look at what is happening in inflation, look at what is happening to the local currency, you want to school abroad now, a very serious issue. So the greater good here.
So doing this is like you said, the greater good, the better evil, like we like to call it as well.
Want to use it but I think it's a greater good.
Okay, moving to other issues. Yesterday we heard from the IMF, growth projection of 2.5%, and we also heard from the CBN governor where he made mention of a 3.4% growth for the year 2021, which is very ambitious, like you have rightly stated. But which is more feasible, and which do you think is likely to happen? So
we had in Q1, we had 0.51% GDP growth. Maybe with the information available to the CBN, who knows if we are in this quarter, that's when Q2 results will be coming out, whether we'll be having maybe 2%. And then, so I think if CBN says 3.5, they have their data from which they are, projecting that. So I don't want to preempt them until when we see the Q2 figure. So if we see the Q2 figure and it's still doing anything less than 1, then I think I will go with IMF. But if we see Q2, of course, it's very understandable that the effect outside this Delta variant of COVID, which is also working as another headwind, then I think by now the economy must have widely opened. We still have other countries now going back into lockdown. You understand? Mounting pressure, according to OPEC, mounting pressure back to the oil. Yeah, we understand that. So for IMF to say, I'm looking at 2.something%, CBN is saying 3 points. So who knows the data that CBN has? But if I'm to project, I think 2% should be more realistic. Considering the inflation rates, considering what are even the headwinds, leading the inflation, leading the GDP growth. You have agriculture. Are we really improving in agriculture? So you of course the answer it's not for me to answer. So what is happening? Farmers are they able to go back to the farm, right? Which is one serious headwind. Now, are we having... So these are some of the factors that when one looks at it, that's okay. For me, since some of the factors that led or that are debilitating against this policy is still available in the market, is still there in the policy, so you can't factor in, they can't just disappear over there. So I think 2%, I will go with IMF, but I don't have the whole data that CBN has. So I won't say CBN is strong. But when we see the second quarter, and the second quarter is doing anything less than 1%, then you will now tell me that by December you will now do 3.4. So I think
so the second quarter will determine the
exactly
full year's
the second quarter at least, which will now be giving you half year figure. You can now use half year because it will be very difficult, really, if our average half year, which is 6 months, is say anything less than 1%, then you are now telling me that in the next half year you are going to do close to 4.something% to have annual of 3.something%. It's going to be very difficult to do. So I think let's see the half year figure. Okay, and you made mention of COVID, which of course has dragged longer than we had expected. Yes. I mean, now there is the Delta variant, and on the other hand, we have discussions around COVID-19 vaccine procurement. Yeah. And another thing the IMF spoke to yesterday was that inflation could be persistent in the days to come, and that CBN, that central banks would have to include inflation in their projections in the coming months or even years. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Eziukwu?
Yeah, the inflation figure should be worrisome. Of course, we've hit over 18.8%, 18.95%. Then we came down, now we are in 17.75%. So we are coming down. But the rate really, is it, should we rejoice at 17.7%? No. Yet. But so what options are available to CBN? Contrast. We can't even attempt contrasting at this point in time. Really, we can't attempt contrasting because there is unemployment. There is massive unemployment. So we find ourselves in a situation where the manufacturers index is improving. So meaning that manufacturers are going back to, factories are opening up. then it's a lagging indicator. So it's for us to say, okay, let's wait, let's continue to use development finance initiative like the CBN railed out, support this organization, support this sector, trying to get them back to their pre-COVID operations. Then by so doing, the inflation will somehow contrast if we're able to solve the foreign exchange, because you can't buy something 20 naira and then sell it 19 naira. It's not possible. It's not possible. So we also need to look at the cost of capital, which adds to your operating costs. So these are some of the issues that the CBN will have to look at. I agree that inflation of 17.7% is 17.75% is worrisome. I agree. But then, what are the options available? So should we leave inflation and then pursue unemployment? Or should we leave unemployment and pursue inflation? So those are, and so now you will now understand why it was wild for the CBN to leave the factors, the risks, at least to still build that confidence and allow the market to operate.
I have been speaking with Mr. Princewill Eziukwu, and he has been speaking to diverse issues that have come up and made the rounds in the Nigerian economy, from forex to inflation to the MPC decision yesterday, as well as growth projections from the CBN and the IMF. Thank you again, Mr. Eziukwu, for coming on the program. It's always a delight to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And this is the point where we wrap up today's edition of the program, Cosmopolitan Market, coming to you on the Nigeria Custom Broadcasting Network. And we'll be back again with you tomorrow, as usual, to keep you updated with happenings in the world of business, commerce, finance, as well as the economy, the global economy precisely. So do well to join us again, same time, same station tomorrow. I am Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.